It's Matt Chapman, and I'm here with Ayana Champagne in New York with Ferring Pharmaceuticals. Hello.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to see you, and I love your background. And it's funny because we talked 2 months ago, and I can already see you're in a different place to to 2 months ago. How are you
Yeah,
feeling?
I'm feeling well. A different place, geography, as well as a different place, probably mentally, feeling
Yeah.
stronger every day.
You have a pretty important role as Chief HR Officer of Ferring Pharmaceuticals. Tell us about this year for you in this role, the company, and some of your insights.
Yeah, the company has been extremely resilient through this difficult time only because of our employees. Our employees have really kind of honed in and adjusted very, very quickly to this environment and shown that they can perform in, a new setting. And so what we've seen is obviously an impact to our business, but we are, on our way back already now coming to the end of the year. It's an exciting time to be with Faring because there's so much promise of the future. And we've demonstrated that we are strong enough to survive it.
Very good. So, what as an organizational culture, what have you had to do to kind of bring back this optimism? Because I think earlier in the year, obviously, everyone was very discombobulated with the amount of change going on. A lot of people were quite
Mhm.
tired. How have you managed to sort of really reinforce bringing back the energy?
I think everything that we do has revolved around one word, and that's inspiration.
Hmm.
We need to, and we have inspired our people in many different ways. First and foremost, safety. So we give them permission to make decisions about where they, visit doctor's offices as they've started to open up. We give them the power to be able to make decisions about where they can work from for business reasons. If they need to be in the office, then we allow that up to a certain capacity as, governed by our local laws and our state laws, and we inspire them to take ownership of their role in order to keep the business going and keep it moving. And so through that, we've been able to, continue to keep people moving forward.
I like that, and so I guess we've seen this evolution from people just having to show up at an office, not just show up at an office. I mean that involved a lot of responsibility,
Sure.
but now really own their lives. And I guess as leaders in companies, accept that we need to support people owning their proper life.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Taking full ownership of it. It's been interesting and certainly surprising how we've had to adjust certain things. And what we found is that there's no real break. So people's lives tend to kind of blend from work to home and home to work so seamlessly that we're not taking the time to take the mental breaks that we need to take. And so it's another aspect that we try and influence and inspire people to do. So finding creative and innovative ways to be able to check in with themselves and make sure that they're doing okay so that they can continue to balance both home and work in a way that they need to.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raised there because I've worked virtually for 12 years. Chapman CG was completely virtual. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I found really important is the ability to switch off, particularly when you're working global time zones. And when I
Mhm.
see um, phone recording of time spent, screen time, and all of that, sometimes I think that's in the right direction where you almost have to monitor the amount of time, how you're spending it, but also
Mhm.
reverse engineer a little bit around your personal priorities so you actually keep your energy high.
Mhm. Yeah, I always say it's extremely important to give as much at home as you give at work. You always, at the end of the day, have to save a little bit for your family. You can't deplete it all for work. And in this new COVID environment, that makes it, that much more difficult to really draw the line and say, okay, these are the parameters. I'm walking away from the computer at 6 p.m., but not just walk away from the computer that's sitting in your living room where family is gathering and you can still see your emails pop in, but literally closing the laptop or turning off your phone so that you can disconnect and then reconnect with your family. That time is important.
It's very important. I used to be an ultra marathon runner, and I will probably still get back and do some more in the future. But I remember needing to pace myself to be able to do the race, and
Mhm.
at each checkpoint, just slow myself down. I find myself
Yeah.
looking at that analogy. The other thing, there's obviously the blue light, and I find myself wearing the beta blocker specs now, or just thinking
Yeah.
about a fiction book at night. But I think the question I want to ask you is, how are you intersecting employee experience with wellness, and just double click into that theme a little bit?
Yeah, we really had to be innovative in that space because we can't necessarily always see it. Where you could walk by someone's desk, or especially as HR professionals, you could check in on someone and feel, their presence and see if they're okay. Now it's different. Now you're only talking to people when it's scheduled and it's on a specific topic. And so we've had to, be very intentional about making sure that we give people permission. You have permission to take a phone call that's scheduled to be a video and not turn on your video. You have permission to take a walk during a conference call and dial in instead of, logging in from your computer so that it's a web meeting. You have permission to take a Friday afternoon off, even though your workload is heavy and things are urgent. You have permission to balance, your life with work and your priorities as you deem appropriate. And we're just going to measure the results. We're going to measure how well we're moving the business forward overall. And so far, the business is doing great. So you're doing what you need to do for work. Make sure you're doing what you need to do for home.
Yeah, good on you. That's fantastic. One I was thinking about recently, actually in Chapman CG, was if every meeting has an agenda before, and if some meetings are recorded, and then if someone takes the minutes after, that essentially all meetings become optional. Now, of course, we'd like everyone on the meeting, but actually, if your time zone or personal situation
Right.
precludes you, then you can catch up on the meeting after and still keep flow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We are a global company and some of that has to happen as well. It's just a matter of learning how to take skills that maybe you've applied in certain circumstances and apply it across a broader spectrum. When we used to work together more closely and I had a global role that was, 12 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead, I had to do some of those similar things to say, this is the parameter, this is the box, this is how I will get this done. It may not get done today, but it'll get done the next day, and that's okay.
So I've got to ask you before we wrap up. I mean, obviously you've got a sizable HR team supporting you, and HR is really at the center of this transformation now. It's such a beautiful time to be in the profession. But how are you developing your team, and how are you seeing their roles evolve through 2020?
Wow, we're doing a lot in HR. I think, there are different spectrums of what's happening in the world that impacts our functional area. And we have to continue to drive for functional excellence in this new space. So our managers are having different requirements. How do I measure performance in this new way when I have a team of field reps that I can't necessarily do as many ride alongs with them as I normally would? Or how do I manage, the home office employee when I don't really get to see them on a day-to-day basis and make sure that they're, providing the right balance between priorities. And so as an HR team, we, continue to try and drive the right messages across the company, but for themselves, I like to tell them, hey, you can't fill the cup of the organization if you don't fill your own. So take the time to add back to what you need in order to be able to continue to give energy to others. And so whether that be conferences that they attend that are now moved to virtual so that, their interests continue to be watered, or if that's, some sort of safe way to connect with another colleague over coffee, do that, by all means, take that afternoon and have a lunch, or maybe it's a team building event. Recently, we played bingo over the course of several meetings in several weeks, whoever got bingo first. And the bingo was about, who said, not who said, but a person, said, oh, you're on mute. Or a person, was late to the conference call. And so whoever got bingo first then got rewarded points. So just finding ways to not just recognize, the regular performance, but, innovative ways to have fun.
Yes, that fine balance between, you need to create intensity and a beat for performance, but to be light and creative about it at the same time.
Yeah,
Such a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks so much for your time,
absolutely.
Anna.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure.